Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary, Ashton, and this is our NXT review, the second half of the Wednesday Night Wars as we have come to know them. And I'm going to be honest here, and I don't know what kind of backlash I'm going to get for this. This is a good episode of NXT, I guess. I mean, I guess compared to Lucha Underground, I just felt like it was pretty average. In fact, there were points where I was even kind of underwhelmed with this episode of NXT. They did advance certain stories, which I appreciated, particularly in the tag team division. But overall, I don't know. I just really couldn't get into this episode of NXT like I normally do. But let's see if that sentiment shared at all by my cohort and commentary here. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
I watched this NXT kind of perpetually waiting for something cool to happen, and it never happened.
So I guess you and I are kind of sharing that ground here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a bad episode because
right.
there were some good matches. There were, well, I shouldn't say there was at least one solid promo. I think, honestly, you know what I think it really is we didn't get any of those, like, sort of NXT, I don't want to say typical, but I'm going to say typical because we've kind of redefined typical because of the way that we used it with Luke Harper and his dive to mean something awesome that somebody does that's normal for them that makes them even cooler. We didn't really get our typical, like, 4 or 5 star women's match tonight that we normally get on NXT. And I mean, 4 or 5 stars overdoing it, but we normally, one of the best matches of the night on any given episode of NXT usually involves, Sasha Banks or Emma or Bayley or Charlotte and somebody up there. And tonight we got a pretty awful, I'm going to say, Divas match. And really the only match that really got any kind of time was the main event, and the main event involved frickin' Rhyno, so how into that can anyone possibly get?
Yeah, I agree with Ashton. I don't want to make it come across that I thought this was a bad episode of NXT, because I would argue that the
best match on this card was the tag team match.
See, and I was going to say, I would even argue that I thought the best match was the opener.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the thing is, though, like, they're in contention. Yeah,
definitely.
Like whether either one of us wants to concede that the other person's match was better, it doesn't even matter, because the fact that they're both in this discussion kind of speaks volumes for, like, I like Rhyno, but why is he main eventing in NXT?
Right. But let's just get on, because I'm curious if you have any of our next segment, Heat of the Night, because I have one Heat of the Night and I have a nitpick. So this should be interesting. Get my nitpick out of the way. I don't care about Alex Riley. I think it's hilarious that he's laying down the gauntlet to Kevin Owens, because here's the thing. He had his match with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens pretty much dominates him. You and I can agree on that, right? And I could understand maybe if Kevin Owens was going to do a post-match assault, and Alex Riley, through his own will, was able to evade it and fight back and realize, my business with you isn't finished. He was going to get powerbombed on the hard part of the apron. If it wasn't for Finn Balor saving your ass, you would have been, Sami Zayn at the time. You just would have gone off. But Finn Balor saves you. Kevin Owens, when he's leaving that beatdown, still manages to kick you in the gut. And yet somehow through all of that, you get it in your head that you can challenge Kevin Owens again and be intimidating.
It's almost like Triple H against The Undertaker. It was like, stop saying you beat me, but I hit you a whole bunch of times. Yeah, but that's not the same thing as winning. It kinda is. No, it's not. Like, Alex Riley, you got dominated by Kevin Owens. Yeah, but I got a few hits in, and that counts. No, not really. He destroyed you. Yeah, but I kinda did win. No, you do realize that he kicked you on his way out from avoiding a beatdown, right? Yeah, but that doesn't really count. Like, shut up, Alex Riley. You lost. You got destroyed. You're not even in the same league as Kevin Owens anymore.
Now, if Finn Balor was in this spot laying down the gauntlet, I could buy it immediately. Because here's the thing, Finn Balor took it to Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason he lost was because Kevin Owens was absolutely merciless on Finn Balor's knee.
Yep.
Alex Riley doesn't even have that going for him. It was, for all intents and purposes, a glorified squash match from where I was sitting. So when you get up there and you say, oh, you rattled my cage, and I'm not, shut up. Shut up and jerk
Bitch,
a damn
please, your cage got knocked over down a hill.
Like, I actually have to stop talking about it because I could feel myself getting annoyed. Like, this is just so stupid. And then, really...
Are you sure you don't want to upgrade this to a full-blown heat of the night?
I think I am going to, so that's 2 heats of the night. And then the other one, which maybe should even devolve into a nitpick, because I guess I'm not as angry, but it kind of annoys me. Why is Baron Corbin still squashing nobodies?
Oh,
Why are we still doing this?
Hey, man, Steve Cutler is one of the very few actually established jobbers in NXT.
That's true. I mean, but the trust fund couldn't save him, okay?
It's funny because it used to be that it was Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler, and now Wesley Blake is one half of the tag team champions, so you never know, man. Maybe Steve Cutler's got a little something in him.
You mean one half of amazing is Wesley Blake, but...
Same thing.
Yeah, but, I mean, the point still stands, though, Ashton. Like, we've been doing this forever now. He had the brief program with Bull Dempsey, which, I mean, honestly, in hindsight, I'm glad that happened, because at least we got him a freaking program. And then you think, well, guys like Adrian Neville handed him, his first, kind of few losses. Maybe, he'd kind of do a run-in, maybe do a heel turn. I mean, look at the guy.
I want Corbin versus Itami.
Yeah, Corbin versus Itami. Up the competition. You keep talking about all this potential. Talking about it and actualizing it are two completely different things. I like Baron Corbin. This isn't me, trying to come down on him and talk the piss out of him. I'm just saying I'm waiting for something. It's kind of like you were saying with the whole episode of NXT. On a microcosmic level, that's what I'm waiting for from Baron Corbin. They even gave him a cool nickname, the Big Bad Wolf. That's cool. Do something. Prey on somebody. Make your opportunities. I swear, if I see him, squash another jobber, I mean, I can't even say I'll raise hell about it because that's being hyperbolic. But, the agitation.
Well, I mean, I think that really it's kind of in a position now where they're calling him the Big Bad Wolf, and he's got this, this lone wolf gimmick, and he's been killing people for so long now. At what point does he go from being fed to actively seeking a meal?
Exactly. How long are you going to be content fighting for supremacy for the bottom rung of the ladder?
When does he go from scavenger to predator?
Exactly. Because right now, these are just slim pickings at best. And I know Baron Corbin, I mean, I enjoyed the match he had with Neville. And, I mean, again, if you'd want him working heel with those kinds of top guys that are of smaller stature and stuff, again,
great.
Yeah, exactly. I could buy it like that. This just isn't working for me anymore. I think after getting that taste of him, again, sharing a ring with Neville and stuff in the program with Dempsey, I realized, okay, you've gone into those waters. You can't go back now. So, yeah, really, after the conversation with Riley, it just made it two full-blown heats of the night. So now I'm going to step off my pulpit here. Do you have any heats of the night or nitpicks you wanted to express?
No, sir, I do not.
All right, then. Kind of weird, me having two and you having none. This round.
Well, it's funny because I didn't even think of either one of those as a big horrible thing, which I can understand why both of them would annoy you, but they didn't really annoy me while they were happening.
Right.
And the one thing that really did annoy me tonight was meant to annoy me, so I can't give that any kind of a hard time because it did its job.
Right. I completely understand. But I'm glad I got to air my grievances. That's what this segment's all about. It's funny actually using it for a change instead of bypassing it. So with that said, let us roll right on through to our NXT review. And if I'm not mistaken, Ashton, we just open up. We have a cold open with CJ Parker versus Solomon Crowe.
That would be correct. And I think that the purpose of this match was A, write CJ Parker off television, and B, establish that Crowe's new finisher is his stretch muffler.
Oh, and thank God for that.
Yep.
Now we are in business. Because watching Solomon Crowe during his time in Force One, Stretch Buffalo was such a legit finisher. He can really, especially on guys like Itami and Bauer and such, I bet he can make that look excruciating. So I'm getting all kinds of excited now that he's made the upgrade.
I just imagine him using that on Hideo Itami, and the facial expression, the anguish on Hideo Itami's face just tells so many stories.
Oh, dude, it's magnificence. It's absolute magnificence, the possibilities that they've given themselves now simply by a change of finisher, because now I've already loved the gimmick. I love the packaging. We've had discussions on Solomon Crowe before, given my history of watching him. I know he can work heel, and I'm waiting for him to just turn heel anytime, and I think that'll probably happen when he's actively pursuing that NXT championship. So a lot of excitement for me for Crowe right now. As far as the match goes, not bad. I actually like that it was a semi-competitive matchup.
And Parker actually got to hit his axe kick.
He hit his axe kick. I wanted to see one more palm strike, and I say one more.
Know.
I think everybody knows by now. CJ Parker has left. So this is probably his last match, and you know what? It was a good one. It was. I enjoyed it.
You know what, though? Here's the thing. From what I understand, he left on good terms because he wanted to do what Zayn and Neville and Balor and Itami and Owens, all these guys already did before getting to WWE. He wanted to travel the world. He wanted to work the indies. And apparently he's already been at a CZW show and put on a freaking match of the night there. So apparently the dude's got something going on for him, and he's planning on trying to get back into the WWE in a couple of years after he's done some indie work.
And I cannot tell you how commendable I find that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's only like 26 or 27 years old. He's still relatively young. I mean, you gotta, well, actually, you know what? I'll tell you what, I'm gonna actually look up how old he is. Now that I think about it, the more I think about it, I almost feel like I want to say he's 30. But regardless, you gotta figure Owens, Itami, and Balor all got signed between the ages of 30 and 33. And yeah, he is 26. He's 26. I just looked it up. So he's still young. He can work the indies for 4 or 5 years, then come back, and he'll be the same age as those guys when they came back.
And so much more polished. And you know what? I love the commitment to it. He looks at the guys around him sharing the same locker room, and he's like, I want the same experience they have. So I have nothing but good things to say about CJ Parker with why he's departed. And hell, he won us over in the end. I think that's really, really awesome. So nothing but good things for CJ. I wish him nothing but the best. And yeah, this is a great outing, and I think he was the perfect guy to, eat the stretch muffler now that it's being brought back. I'm curious what name they're going to give it under this hacker gimmick. But I like the way he set it up too, because he goes off the top rope as Crowe and gets all of his body weight on CJ Parker's knee. So that was really well done. And then he hooks in the stretch muffler, and then it's pretty much good night. So
it'd be hilarious if he fully committed to the hacker gimmick and they called it the phishing scam, and the whole time he had the other guy hooked in it, he was just like, "Tell me your username and password."
That would be amazing. I'm telling you, dude, and we've even had discussions, buried in the TWitWoW archives at this point, long before Crowe debuted, and I went on that one tangent that one time about all the potential I see in this gimmick. That was actually one of my favorite little tangents in the TWitWoW annals, but I still see that same potential now, and I just can't wait to see him really build that momentum, and I genuinely thank CJ Parker for being a part of that. It was a good hand to kind of get that maneuver off the ground and get Crowe, that crowd support. So solid matchup, and if this was indeed CJ Parker's last match, I don't know if they taped anymore, but if it was, great stuff, and I hope we see him again soon with us. I really do.
Absolutely. I feel like, I don't know, there are certain instances in the wrestling world where somebody somebody sort of starts using a move or a finisher, and everything just clicks, and it just seems like that was meant to be their move. That they make it look better than anyone else ever has, and better than you can imagine anyone ever will. And to me, Sami Callihan, or in this case, you got to call him Solomon Crowe, with that stretch muffler, he fits that bill. I've never seen anyone use it better.
Oh,
not even Brock. I mean, I know Brock has used it. I think Batista might have used it before. It's a move that gets used by a lot of the bigger guys, but it looks painful because they're big. With Sami, it makes it painful because of the way he locks it in.
Let me tell you, as a guy who's seen Solomon Crowe use that stretch muffler many a time.
I gotta stop calling him Sami. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to too when I reflect on my Force One experience, but I'm training myself, Solomon. But as a guy who's watched Solomon apply it many a time, win world titles with it and feuds with it, oh man, I am so glad he made the switch. When he said he was going to, and you alerted me that he said on Twitter, like, I'm listening and it's happening, I popped. Because now I feel like the gimmick's complete. That slingshot splash he was doing, I'll be honest, like, I felt a complete disconnect. I think a finisher is very important. And I feel like now he's really rounded himself out with it. He got the win. He cut a promo afterwards. And what did he say before his catchphrase? He said this program, I think, is just getting started, or this show's just getting started.
Said, stay tuned because the real show is only just getting started.
Yes.
And then he said, I now return you to your regular scheduled programming. I don't like the catchphrase at all.
It's a bit campy, but I think
it's not even necessarily the camp. It's just how forced it is. It's not something that anyone would ever say in a conversation. Like, it just feels so forced. And it's one of those things where, like, he said it on his first speaking segment, and it kind of worked then. It was pretty cool then for what he was doing. But then it's like somebody backstage says, yeah, you gotta latch onto that. You gotta use that. That's gonna be your catchphrase. And now he's overusing it, and because he's using it more than just once, it feels incredibly forced.
It's funny because if he had cut the promo off, the real show's just getting started, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the type of gimmick that is really going to thrive in sound bites.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I don't really care too much for the catchphrase. I would hope it would be shaved off.
Although I will say one thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that annoys me more than anything else in the world of pro wrestling is empty promises. Somebody's saying, stay tuned because the real show is only just getting started. Okay, so does that mean that you're hiding something from us that we're going to see down the line, or is that just a completely empty promise that doesn't actually mean anything and you're just filling airtime and trying to sound cool?
I see what you're saying. So yeah, like now, is he going to deliver? Is he going to assault like a big time guy?
Yeah, like back in the day when the Nexus was a thing, and Barrett was always talking about how, like, we serve a higher power. No, you don't. That never actually did anything.
Yeah, exactly. So
like, it's the empty promises, and that's one thing that I absolutely love Lucha Underground for, because they have never, ever, in the 23 episodes that we've watched together, they've never made it a promise that they didn't follow up on, or that was recent enough that they still have an opportunity to follow up on, and I'm confident they will.
Oh, completely agree. And I hope, Solomon Crowe can kind of smooth over, the rough parts of this gimmick, because what I love about it has such a late 90s Jericho kind of vibe to me.
I can kind of
I really
say
do.
That.
Yeah, like the Titantron and the theme, and just things like that. Like, I'm really embracing it, but he's still got some things to smooth over. But you know what? I think he's definitely one of the more promising NXT prospects from where I'm sitting. So I'm excited to see where he goes after this.
He's got that Saiyan look to his hair too.
Yeah. Transform at any time.
Yeah. All right. After Solomon Crowe defeats CJ Parker and cuts a promo about it, we get Baron Corbin versus Steve Cutler. Literally nothing to talk about here. Baron Corbin squash match. John?
Let's move on. I mean, I agree.
All right, up next, we had a Sami Zayn interview. Talks about his match tonight with Rhyno. And to kind of close things out and wrap it up, he says, Kevin Owens used me to get to the top, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let Rhyno do the same thing.
Yeah, I liked it. It was very succinct, to the point. I mean, that's exactly as Sami Zayn should speak as a babyface. No problems with it whatsoever.
Yep. Up next, we have Old Blue Pants versus Dana Brooke. I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. Up next, we have Enzo and Big Cass. They come out and they do their shtick, and they say that they're going to be the next tag champs, and they call Blake and Murphy soft. And then their opponents, Shoot Nation, Angelo, Dawkins, and Sawyer Fulton. John, I know you love these guys, so I want to hear you just gush.
Oh, so good, man. I'm a sucker for that amateur style, that more technical style, so it was great to see these guys. I know they'll become a cohesive whole, though, when, all the members come together. So, especially when Jason Jordan, I guess, leading at the helm. So we'll see. But yeah, this is a solid matchup. I liked how they were making the frequent tags. I mean, early on they kind of, showed off a little bit because they had the fireman's carries, but they kept control of the wrist. And I really like that. It's the little things that kind of get me to pop. So that was really cool. But then, dude, what I love about Enzo and Cass is that we know that Enzo's kind of like this scrappy guy. He barely knows any maneuvers. So he did kind of impress us both tonight with some of the moves he used. I'm like, I can't even believe he knew how to do that. But when he tags in Big Cass, I mean, it completely shifts. Because this guy, he just runs roughshod over everybody, and he dominates. And that was kind of a similar thing here. Whenever Enzo was on offense, he kind of felt like Shoot Nation had an opportunity to really capitalize. But both times that Big Cass got the tag in this match, I'm like, oh, it's over. Because there's just no stopping him. He just like a freight train running over everybody. We got some storyline development with this match as well, because Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy, they emerge. And they start talking to Carmella. Carmella seems, off put by it, like, hey, what are you guys doing? And then they reveal that they each got her a bouquet of flowers. And she seems, quite taken by the gesture, and she accepts them. Obviously, Big Cass and Enzo don't know what's going on. And they end up getting the win, because I believe Angelo Dawkins ate the pin here. Big Cass got the East River Crossing on him, which is a seated swing bottom. And then he tags in Enzo for the assisted splash for the win, which is funny because he tried to go off the top rope a bit earlier in the match, but he completely failed. So I guess he needs Cass to assist him for it to be successful. And Enzo and Cass win the matchup. And you know what?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Cass doesn't even serve as a launching point. He doesn't really even help Enzo that much. He just serves as a bodyguard to make sure nobody screws with the ropes and knocks him off balance.
Exactly. It's great. I love that they're definitely a comedy gimmick, but they're very serious about winning those NXT tag team titles, and the crowd is serious with them. Like, I think they really want to see it happen. I mean, these guys, their crowd control and how they get the crowd to participate and everything else is just insane.
Absolutely.
You know what, dude? I'm going to be honest with you. I have confidence it could translate potentially to the main roster, but I also have my worries at the same time. Like, what if they're not as active and participatory? Like, how is that going to translate for these guys? But they're just so good that even if it's a rough start, I have no doubt that they'll finish strong, so to speak. These guys are just fantastic.
Absolutely. Up next was the match that I kind of skipped ahead to earlier. Actually, no. We're not going to skip ahead to that yet because we haven't talked about the biggest storyline device coming out of this match.
Which, Carmella being flirted with by Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, they sprung on the trap in the form of the, bouquet of flowers each. So, two. She got a nice little assemblage there.
One thing of white roses, one thing of red roses.
Yeah, got that mixture going on, and Enzo and Kaz are kind of looking at her like, what are you doing? And she puts the flowers to their noses, and they seem like disgusted, like, get that away from me, because they're keeping their focus on the NXT Tag Team Championships. But see, I love this because even if they do sincerely want Carmella as a valet, which I believe, it still doesn't change the fact that I feel like Enzo and Cass are treating this opportunity through brute force, like, oh, I've got Cass the muscle, and, Enzo's got the heart of a lion, again, that whole scrappiness bit. But Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy, they're treating this like a game of chess. They're messing with Carmella. They're going to try and influence her to kind of swing her support because she could be very vital in whether or not, Enzo and Cass become the NXT Tag Team Champions. So I love each team's kind of approach to this. Because Enzo and Cass were like, we're just going to run straight through everybody. And Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy are like, we're not going to get our hands dirty. We're just going to, play the field, so to speak, and get the other pieces to do the work for us. It's great stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Glad we got that talked about, though, because I didn't want to forget about that.
Right.
Now, Dana Brooke, Blue Pants. Yeah, this match was bad, but I'm not going to write Dana Brooke off because it's still developmental, right?
Well, it's developmental, and we have to recognize. I mean, Blue Pants. I mean, that's literally her name. My God.
Bates for those of you that are indie fans.
Exactly. She is bottom tier as far as NXT is concerned. So I'd much rather.
I mean, she has a win over Carmella.
Yeah, she has a win over Carmella, who's been kind of relegated to be Enzo and Cass's valet lately.
Yeah, but she also has a win over Emma, so...
Do you have a point? No, I'm just kidding, but I'm just saying, dude, that Blue Pants, obviously she isn't even in that like contendership realm or whatever. She's not in like that upper tier, so I can understand this being Dana Brooke's first matchup. And it's funny that you mentioned Emma, because I was just getting ready to say I'd much rather her beat Blue Pants in her debut and make it come off as like a pretty bad match than beating Emma and them just being like, oh, Dana Brooke's making an impact right away, to kind of use, Dana Brooke as a means of Emma questioning if she should be face or heel or not. That just wouldn't have been the time or the place. So I can forgive it because of what they gave us. She does need a lot of work. I really couldn't get into this. And you know what the funny thing is? I'm thinking that they're probably going to put a lot of time into her, I'm assuming, probably give her a lot of polish, because ultimately I'm wondering if they want Dana Brooke to kind of be the answer, since Beth Phoenix has been gone for just so many years now, and kind of, fill that role of just this powerhouse female wrestler. She might come into her own with it, though. Again, you and I have that policy. We don't write anybody off. We give everybody fair time. This was a rough start, but we'll see how she progresses down the road. Oh, and we both kind of seem surprised because her finisher, apparently, is the front forward Death Valley Driver, as we know it in Lucha Underground from King Cuerno, the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, two things worth noting from this match that I just had to make notes on. I mean, first of all, she 100% kicked Blue Pants in the vagina. Just wanted to point that out. But then also, she has got literally the worst punches I've ever seen thrown in WWE, and she makes John Cena's punches look really good.
I'm glad you actually said something, because when she was in the mount position in the match and nailing the punches, yeah. I'm glad it wasn't just me that questioned, wait, did that even connect? Like, I was actually questioning, like, are they really that awful or not? So I'm actually
they were that awful.
That.
Yeah.
And you know what, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me kind of pouring gasoline on the fire here for no reason, but another little disconnect I had, and my God, maybe I've spent too much time on the internet, this is going to sound really smarky, but it just seemed like she was working over the head of Blue Pants all this time. Like, she hung her up on the top rope at one point, her face kind of collided, she did the punches and everything else, she choked her out, so like that whole area, and then her finisher was kind of like, again, the front forward Death Valley Driver, as we know, at the throw of the hunt, and I don't know, I just felt like kind of a disconnect. Maybe if she did like or something. I just felt like, it should have been a head-based finisher.
How is that anything but a head-based finisher?
Well, I mean, isn't it like the back that really faces the brunt of the impact, though?
Well, I mean, it's the the top of the back to the neck area that realistically does, but from a kayfabe perspective, it's basically a pile driver.
Ah, okay.
Or like a brainbuster almost.
I could, yeah, when you put it like that, then I could let it slide. I just felt like there was kind of a disconnect, but when you put it that way, yeah, I can't give her a bad mark for that. Plus, to be fair, I mean, clearly this gimmick is about her power.
I mean, John, listen to the name of the move that you're calling it, a front-facing Death Valley Driver.
Yeah, driver, but that doesn't necessarily imply, head impact.
Pile driver.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But, and again, I was getting ready to say anyway, I could forgive it because the gimmick is about her being a powerhouse.
Right.
So, flaunting, those muscles for like 5 minutes.
I mean, she's really into her own body, and she doesn't have a problem with flaunting it, and that is, it's such a, I'm going to kind of steal a word that you used a couple of minutes ago, it's such a disconnect for two reasons. First of all, we're supposed to boo her, but in today's sort of day of wrestling fans, today's age of wrestling fans, we boo people that we think aren't good at what they do almost as much, if not more, than we boo people that we don't like personality-wise. So, like, she's gonna get booed whether she acts like a heel or not because she's awful, right?
Right.
But then she's meant to be a heel. So is it, I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like she's going to get a lot of heat, and that's a good thing, but because she's a heel, but it's the wrong kind of heat. She's getting you suck, go away heat, not I hate your personality, I don't want to see you get beat up heat.
I mean, I even heard, I don't know if you caught this, but I heard a small you can't wrestle chant break out. It was
from what I understand, it was literally one guy.
Yeah, I mean, but that's usually how it starts. I'm hoping it doesn't become like a trend. I mean, it was quickly quelled, to be fair, by Blue Pants chants. So I don't know, but again, like I don't want to be too harsh because it was blue pants, so it's not like it's this big deal.
That's kind of my thing,
match.
though, is that again, I said there were two parts that I had to disconnect with. That was the first one. The second one is we keep saying, "Oh, it's developmental," right?
Right.
Wasn't Triple H the one that said developmental my ass?
Well, to be fair, I feel like that was one really successful live event of 5,000 people. You're talking this was Full Sail University.
Right, but I guess my point is they have the performance center, the training center, right?
Right.
Why would you put somebody on NXT television when they're this bad?
You know, maybe they're going to go back to the drawing board. I just feel like, you know, Triple H, when he made that statement, it was hyperbole, you know, being...
Well, no, I understand that it's hyperbole, but NXT has grown to a point where it is now, it's not developmental. It is its own brand. It's touring, for God's sakes.
Right.
So...
But I do think, though, we need to keep in the back of our minds, though, that these people are here to learn, to get to that, quote-unquote, that next level.
See, but to me, these people are at the Performance Center to learn. They're in the WWE's developmental system to learn, but NXT and the WWE's developmental system have become two different identities.
It could be just like a mindset where, you know, you got to find out if a person at one point can sink or swim by putting them in front of that atmosphere with a crowd and working an actual match.
I can understand that, but why would you do it so quickly after hiring her? She's still learning how to throw punches, for God's sake. Why would you expect her to swim having not even learned how to properly throw a punch?
And that's true. I think that is a fair point. I just feel like, you know, I know NXT has exploded and we get so wrapped up because it's just such a great program. I mean, usually, and, you know, but I think at the same time, I always try and keep it in the back of my mind, you know, they are, at least some of them. I mean, you know, a lot of the guys, you know, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, they have that indie experience. People like Dana Brooke, they are just being broken in. I don't know. Hopefully, you know, they look at that match and they say, you know what, let's kind of regroup a little bit. Let's keep you off TV for 2 or 3 more weeks and maybe give this another go. But we'll see.
Do you really think 2 or 3 weeks is going to make a difference?
Not much of a difference, but I mean, you know, you got to keep hashing out the game plan. You got to keep. That's why they're here. So, you know, they're going to keep hammering out something for it, and I'm sure something will work out.
What I'm saying, though, is the WWE's developmental system is where Dana Brooke is and where she should be.
Right.
But NXT television is a different entity. It is its own brand. It is its own product. And you shouldn't be throwing people on NXT television before they're ready for television. Well, I mean, NXT is on TV in Canada, in the UK, and it's on the network, and people pay to watch it. It's supposed to be about as close to a polished product as this kind of product can get.
Right.
So if you've got someone like Dana Brooke who has basically no clue what they're doing, they don't even know how to throw a proper punch yet, why would you, I mean, even if you go by the sink or swim, you can't expect her to thrive in this kind of environment. She's not getting booed because people want to see her get beat up. She's getting booed because people don't want to see her at all.
Right. So, I mean, again, I really can't contend everything you're saying here. I just hope they take from this, they learn from it, and I don't know. Maybe they just kind of scrap it for now, and then down the line when they feel like she really can be ready to be a part of a television product, she'll come back, you know, more polished. I don't know how they're going to do it, but, you know, hopefully.
I think my biggest concern, though, is that she's a heel. So they're going to interpret people booing her as, oh, she's such a great heel. She's getting all this heat. This is amazing, when it's the wrong kind of heat.
And I think that's a legitimate concern. The best we can do, and I really don't even have an answer for it, except we can only hope that those watching the matchup can say, you know what, Dana, you know, we want to work with you, but that was bad. You know, I mean, just really tell her that match was the shits. And you know, just kind of work with her and refine her game. I'm hoping that people aren't like, oh, look at this heat, you know, it's amazing, you know, let's get her in this program right away to build her up towards the NXT Women's Championship, because after that match, I mean, that thought kind of makes me cringe a little bit. But, you know, all we can do is kind of sit on our hands and wait and see what Dana Brooke does next, Because I don't know. Because then we're just talking about what are they going to do with her. And, that's just, I think, aimless speculation at this point. So.
Yeah. Okay, now, main event time. Sami Zayn versus Rhyno.
Here's my thing. I think in a way I do kind of owe this match an apology, because I know I told you offhandedly that I just didn't expect this match to be that good. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a classic or anything. I mean, they didn't tear the roof off the place. But I think, Sami Zayn is so good at what he does, being that guy that fights from the ground up, given his stature and everything else, that when you work with a bigger guy like Rhyno, I think it's easy to get behind it. And hell, I mean, despite how you and I may feel about the matchup, the fact is this match did get a "This is awesome" chant from the crowd. So clearly they won them over. So, at least that's good, because I prefer that and me having my own opinion than just them being silent, because, for a guy like Sami Zayn just coming back now and doing his thing, that would really suck. Rhyno played to the power game, pure and simple. I mean, there was a point where he did like these shoulder thrusts violently into the corner, really drove the air out of Sami Zayn, really kept him grounded. I mean, Corey Graves even made a point on commentary, that's Rhino's game plan, because Sami Zayn starts making a comeback, then the crowd starts getting into it, and Sami Zayn feeds off the crowd. So Rhyno, was really kind of imposing his will. Sami Zayn makes the comeback, dive over the ropes, kind of, senton sort of thing. But then he gets caught at one point, belly to belly from Rhyno. Tries to go for the gore. Sami Zayn evades it, hits the haluva kick, and it's good night Rhyno. And that's another thing I will say, too. I can't be too hard on this matchup, personally, because I actually thought they might give Rhyno the win, to be honest.
Dude, I was sitting back thinking, well, they're gonna let Rhyno win this so that they can kind of build on this idea that Kevin Owens just emotionally devastated Sami Zayn so much that he's not himself anymore.
Right.
And then he won, and it's like, oh, well, I guess he's all right.
And I'm glad, though. I'm glad, because here's the thing. I don't think I would have minded them going the route that you just put forth. But I think my thing is, I think it was like 2 weeks prior. It was 2 weeks prior. I keep forgetting, like last week was the whole Access thing. He makes the proclamation like, I'm back, and item number 1 on my list is kick Kevin Owens' ass. And he spoke with such fire and such conviction that if he lost to Rhyno here, I think it would take away such value from his words, from that promo. So him winning and getting that momentum, now I'm thinking, yes, we are getting closer to you kicking Kevin Owens' ass, and I can't wait for it. So I am actually really relieved that he won over Rhyno. He won this matchup. I don't know if maybe Finn Balor's going to try and stake his claim again. We have Alex Riley, who I have no idea what business he has in all this, laying down the gauntlet to Kevin Owens. But regardless, I just want the path to be cleared for the next live special, which I've read is May 20th. So I'm hoping by the time we get there, we have Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn 2 for the NXT World Title as our main event. And if you want to tack on Finn Balor, I wouldn't have any qualms about that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's about it.
All right, then on to our next segment, high spots and low shots. I'm going to say that my low shot is CJ Parker.
Yeah.
He, lost this match. It was, presumably his last match to a stretch muffler, no less. So it was a submission loss. Solomon Crowe continues to barrel onward. And like I said, hopefully, again, we see CJ Parker down the road. I'm just really commend him for going and getting the worldly experience that he sees that his peers had before they came here. So, CJ, you're awesome. But one last time, for old time's sake, you are my low shot, man.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to kind of keep my low shot simple. It's going to be Blue Pants because, I mean, as over as she is, at the end of the day, unfortunately, she's not even technically a main member of the NXT women's roster. She's, technically she's just a named local talent, unfortunately. And I think Leva Bates should get a freaking contract with WWE, but they aren't giving her one for whatever reason. Maybe she's not interested in one. I don't know the story there. But regardless, she's extremely over. The crowd loves her, but she got pretty well owned by a debuting talent tonight that proved that she was clearly not ready for television.
Yeah, I mean, no contentions here. My high spot, I almost want to give my high spot to Kevin Owens because he'll have had 2 weeks off because his opponent's Alex Riley next week. But you know what? I'm not going to be an asshole. So my high spot, I'm going to say it's Sami Zayn. because, you know, he's a guy, it's always interesting with Sami Zayn because you never know, and I don't mean this in a jerky way, but you never know if he's going to back up his words because they love seeing him struggle. And I was really glad to see him get the win over Rhyno, keeping to his promise right now of getting himself together so he can face Kevin Owens. And he won in the main event tonight. And then Rhyno was going to try and use him as a stepping stone. Sami Zayn's like, ain't happening. So good job, Sami. You're my high spot.
All right. My high spot is a tag team, actually.
All right, sweet.
Blake and Murphy.
Aw, yes.
They didn't do any work. They just spent a few bucks on some roses, gave them to Carmella, and that's all it took to win her over.
Like I said, man, the mental game. Just waiting for that bomb to detonate.
Yep, she is a ticking time bomb, and Blake and Murphy just took the device to trigger her.
Absolutely. With that said, do you have any closing remarks about tonight's episode of NXT?
No, sir.
All right then, guys. This has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort in Commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of Dana Brooke's debut? What do you think she needs work on? And yes, we will accept everything as a legitimate answer. Be sure to take the conversation over to Pweetov, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. Also be sure to take the conversation over to our TwitWoW subreddit that Ashton personally created, where you can talk one-to-one with either one of us about all things wrestling, especially the shows we cover. So with that said, we will see you again for our Monday Night Raw review. It is the Go Home Raw before Extreme Rules, where we will see Randy Orton maybe having one final confrontation with Seth Rollins, but what will he do now that the RKO has been deprived from his arsenal? Will he do what his old mentor told him to adapt, or will Seth Rollins ensure that he perishes? Till then, guys, tune in. Peace out.